So here we are with Sean Kelly and Brian Vollmer. Sean, of course, just wrote Metal on Ice, and Brian is with Helix. How you doing, gentlemen?
Great.
Yeah, doing great, Mitch.
You realize you're the person that hooked us up, eh?
I do. I do. I seem to be, well, if I can say this, Sean can correct me, but I think I'm Sean's guardian angel, quite frankly.
Either that or a marriage counselor or something like that.
Yeah,
Matchmaker.
I was thinking more like a matchmaker.
Yeah.
One of those matchmaking services.
That's right. It's Mitch.com instead of Match.com.
But I'll take guardian angel, too.
Something like that. Or rock angel. I don't know. I mean, and I'm also honored to be in the Metal on Ice book. I mean, Sean came to me and said, hey, can you talk to me a little bit about Honeymoon Suite? And I said, yeah, sure. And next thing you know, I'm in print. So that was great, too.
Yeah, well, it was great to have your input.
But let's talk Metal on Ice here. What made you, Sean, as the author, decide that the history or the story of Canadian hard rock and metal had to be told?
Well, to me, it was easy. I'm a music biography junkie. I read everything to do with rock and roll, especially hard rock and metal. Mm-hmm. But anything I ever read about Canadian hard rock and Canadian rock and roll didn't really give enough credit or enough reference to the music that really influenced me, the hard rock and heavy metal artists. I just didn't see anything written about bands that I knew that were selling out arenas and selling gold and platinum records, but for some reason, that part of Canada's musical history hasn't been properly documented, at least in my eyes. Right. So that was one part of the motivation. And the other part of the motivation for writing Metal on Ice was to find out if I was on a parallel path with some of these artists in terms of forging a musical career. I wanted to know if the struggles that I had as somebody who was influenced by them, if they were the same as some of the struggles that they went through.
Right.
And I also wanted to see if there was something uniquely Canadian about these artists. Was there a unique Canadian voice that came out of these artists because of the struggles of trying to break out of Canada?
You know, it's funny that you use that term, because my next question, or my question that I had in my head for Brian, was, what is it about Helix that, first of all, makes you a great rock and roll, hard rock, heavy metal band, but what is it that makes you a uniquely Canadian hard rock band?
Well, I think just that the geography of the country makes us kind of unique. And you can play as many places in Ohio as you can in all of Canada. And those long distances, long rides, those places way up north that, we traveled to, and those little towns, I think, really formed us character-wise and sound-wise. And also, as far as sound goes, we were influenced by a lot of Canadian bands. I remember playing the Chaudière where Spaceship Superstar was the only thing that played in the jukebox for a full week. Whereas American bands, I'm sure, were influenced more by like James Gang and bands like that.
On the Metal on Ice CD, you covered a bunch of the songs from some of our biggest bands. Maybe I can have you both comment on Lee Aaron. What's so unique and special about Lee Aaron?
What's unique and special about Lee?
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, there's a lot, and I can say that from experience. I've actually just started playing guitar with Lee, and I'm finding out just how deep her musicality and her musicianship and her artistry really goes. I mean, here's somebody who sings and writes authentic jazz music. She actually comes from a musical theater background.
Right.
She's done the heaviest, kind of hard rock of the time in the early 80s. She was a European sensation, hanging out with all the big heavy hitters in Europe. And then she can do pop rock. She really can traverse a wide variety of musical genres. So to me, that's something fairly unique right there.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the jazz, because you are a hard rock guitarist, but you're also signed on a classical or for Universal for classical guitar. And Brian, you teach bel canto singing. What is it with Canadian artists and digging into these other genres?
Well, I don't know about other instruments, but I know in the case of voices, when we started off in the circuit back in the 70s, you literally had to play 6 to 7 nights a week, 3 to 5 sets a night. So many singers were losing their voice, and most singers that I knew that sang on the Ontario circuit all ended up at Ed Johnson's teaching place in Hamilton at that time. And Ed Johnson was the youngest member of the New York Metropolitan Opera, and he taught the old Italian method of singing called bel canto, which means beautiful voice in Italian. And it's the only way to sing without having tension on the vocal cords. And so everybody would gravitate towards Ed because they were losing their voices. And I was lucky enough to have gotten in there. And in 1975 or 6, I was diagnosed as having nodes or polyps in my vocal cords. I was told I would never sing again. And I remember that my manager sent me to Ed, and Ed took me aside and said, look, just study with me, and your nodes will go away without any surgery. And in a year of taking lessons from him, without getting my throat operated on, without taking any time off on the road, my nodes went away, which was pretty miraculous, really. And, it was many years before I gained my confidence back as a singer, though, even when we were doing the first independent album, Breaking Loose. And then around 1988, I started teaching myself, and I've been teaching since then. So now I teach a lot of singers that, once again, have throat problems, and they all end up at my doorstep. So.
Okay, so you haven't given up. Let me go through a couple more names here, just of Canadian rock, just to get your comments, and then we'll talk about the projects you're doing now. Darby Mills with Headpins. Now, I saw them open up at the Montreal Forum for Kiss on the Creatures of the Night tour. So we're going back to 1982, I guess it is.
Yeah.
How did you reach out to Darby to get her involved in Metal on Ice?
Well, I mean, that really came about through wanting to find out more about the female perspective of being an artist in Canada. Right. And, there's really not that many, in terms of the hard rock genre, at least there weren't at the time. I kind of reached out to Lee Aaron, to Darby, reached out to Holly Woods from Toronto. I wasn't able to get a hold of Chrissy Steele. That was another one I thought of. I'm sure there are more, but, I wanted to get a hold of Darby because I knew she had toured with, a lot of the hard rock heavyweights. Really, the Headpins are more hard rock than metal, for sure. But there's something about the sound of Darby's voice blended with Brian McLeod's guitar playing. Like Darby, I always say her voice, when she's really given her, it sounds like a finely tuned Marshall amp, like a really great Marshall, just set to stun. There's something in the tone of her voice that is just so rock and roll. And as I've been, it's funny, I'm getting ready for the Metal on Ice show on May 10th, and I'm reviewing.
She sings like a man.
What's that?
She sings like a man.
Well, I don't know about that, but she sure sings like a woman I wouldn't want to mess with.
Right. Well, she certainly got a powerful voice. I mean, I remember that show in '82 very, very well. In fact, you mentioned Toronto. I saw them open up for Ted Nugent back in the day. I mean, I guess I'm getting a little old, aren't I?
Oh, no, you just have a wealth of experience.
Brian, as somebody who went through the Canadian scene, do you think it was harder for a female vocalist to get noticed in Canada?
I don't know. It's hard to put myself in their position. I think maybe in one way it was because, I think just this whole genre of music is slower to accept women than it is men. But on the other hand, breasts and the other apparatus doesn't hurt either.
No, it doesn't.
What I mean? Like,
yeah.
Guys want to see a sexy chick singing rock and roll. And both Darby and Lee Aaron definitely qualify in that category.
For sure. And you know what? I mean, rock and roll by its nature is a sexual music, right? Like, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with incorporating that into the music itself. I mean, the term's a euphemism for sex. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's how you use it. And what was cool is, like, both of those artists really, took control and took control of their own sexual messaging. No one was going to put them in compromising situations.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And then I'll go with one last name, and then we'll talk about the CDs and stuff you're doing these days. Russ Dwarf and the Killer Dwarves. That's a fantastic band. I mean, they really, that Keep the Spirit Alive and with Rock You from Helix, they really sort of broke the mold and got a notice by MTV and down south. What can you tell me about the Dwarves?
I thought they actually should have been bigger than they were. Russ is a good friend of mine. I think he's got a fantastic voice. We actually have the same birthday, June 30th, which I find is really ironic. But I thought, for instance, their video for "Keep the Spirit Alive" was a great video, and they were working on a lot less money than Helix was. Because we had a bigger record deal with Capitol Records. I think they were an Attic. But I thought that Killer Dwarfs should have been bigger than they actually ended up being.
For me, it's a rare band that can incorporate humor into their music without becoming a joke, and the Dwarfs definitely qualify there. There was a sense of humor, but there's also a really genuine sense of positivity about those guys, and that has everything for me to do with Russ's melodic voice. Yeah. Like when he's singing those notes at the top of his range, I mean, the message is loud and clear. And also, as a writer, I just thought they had some really, really catchy tunes.
Yeah, they really did, huh? So let's talk about catchy tunes. Now, you guys got together and wrote, Vagabond Bones, Helix's album.
Yes.
How was it working with Sean?
Very proud of that album, by the way.
Yeah, it's a great album. And the Unplugged one that came out right after.
Yes. Sean was very instrumental in helping put that together.
Yeah.
That's actually one of that is probably, of all the records I've had the pleasure of working on, that's probably my favorite.
So Sean, when you hook up with Brian Vollmer for the first time and he says, come write with me and stuff like that, do you think, okay, we got to go back and write Rock You, or do you think, all right, let me bring something new to him? What was your thought process going into those albums?
Well, first of all, the first thing he told me upon when I got the gig was, you're not going to be writing or playing on any of the records. So I said, I got to find a way to get in there. Right. Because he already had a great writing relationship. Yeah. But fortunately, I was, hey, look, as you know, Mitch, and as Brian knows, I tried to get in Helix for years.
Right.
So being tenacious is not something I'm afraid of. So I believe we were backstage in Peterborough one day, and Brian said, well, play me something. So I played him a little bit of a song I was working on called Bitter's Got the Better of You. Is that right, Brian? I think that was the first time I played something for you.
I can't remember that. I just remember that, looking back and not remembering the actual what happened at that point of our, meeting and everything. I usually tell that with anybody that comes in the band because I don't want to get them any false expectations of what they,
right.
When I hire somebody as a sideman, and basically that's how I was hiring Sean at that point. Right. But then, my writing relationship with Gord Pryor and Steve Georgopoulos, I can't pronounce that name, fell apart. And Sean and I got together in Toronto, and I remember our first writing session, we came up with The Animal Inside. And then we brought in Mo Berg, and the song turned out great, and we just got on a roll. But I do remember Bitter Got the Better of You. I think it's one of my favorite Helix songs. Was largely Sean's song. I think I added a few things towards the end, but I just love the lyrics, and I love a good chorus. I love a good play on like word play, and I just thought the lyrics were really great in that song, and one of my favorite songs that I do remember.
Yeah,
well, Mitch, and to get back to your original question, I will say this. One thing that's cool about the relationship that Brian and I have is we don't force it. So we don't try to write a song that's going to sound like something off Wild in the Streets or something off No Rest for the Wicked. We just write, and we just let our influences come out because we both have, we're both from the school of thought that says, you shouldn't have to force it. Yeah. You should just let the muse kind of work within you, right? And we've been really lucky. We rarely leave a session empty-handed. And that's a real gift. I've done quite a bit of writing, and it doesn't always work out that way. But with Brian and I, there's just something special. And when you have something special like that, you want to keep it going, and we're going to keep it going.
Yeah, I tell you, we go down to write, and I'll drive down really early in the morning. I meet Sean usually around 8 o'clock, right when he's taking Desmond off to school. And we usually go down to the restaurant first, and we sit around and we catch up. And We have breakfast, then we come back, and we usually only spend about 3 hours writing, and then we feel totally drained at least I do at the end of 3 hours, and we get the skeleton of a song down, and then I go home. And it doesn't last very long, but it's always an enjoyable experience. It's never, I've been in writing sessions where you're sitting there and it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I've been with people that, they sit down and go, let's write a hit. Immediately the pressure's on and all the fun's taken out of it. It's never like that with us. And we never gear ourselves towards any certain direction. And I think that comes from the fact that both of us come from a background where, when you were out in the bars, you played everything. You didn't just play like straight metal. You played poppier songs, whatever you needed to play to go over in the bar and get a gig back there, right? So,
right.
I think unconsciously we're both on the same wavelength in regards to that. Like if you look at Vagabond Bones, there was even a country song in that album, really.
Yeah, there was.
Which kind of harkens back to, I always look at that song, Best Mistake I Never Made. That's another one of my favorite tracks. It's kind of like The Girl with the Faraway Eyes by the Rolling Stones, more towards a rhythm and blues type of feel, bordering on country. So, and we both like that type of music. So, we're not really going outside of what we are when we write that stuff.
Yeah, you're right. Now, Sean just mentioned the classic Helix albums. When you were making those, did the record companies come to you and say, listen, if you want to play in Dubuque or in Minnesota, you need to change your sound, you need to do this, or were you pretty much free to do as you wished?
I think there was more pressure from Bill Sipe, my manager, and Bill and I are still great friends, but we frequently butted heads during that period because Bill, I understand his point of view too, because he had to sell it. He had to sell it to the record company, and the record company wanted hits. And I've always found with record companies that, they don't want you to be different. They want you, somebody's got a hit, they want you to be exactly like that band that had the hit. So, they're always trying to gear you towards a certain sound and that. And not only that, but we got labeled with Rock You, and Rock You really wasn't written by the band, even though I wrote some of the lyrics in the verse. It was really a Bob Halligan song. So, and this was after we had Heavy Metal Lovin', the first album, which was actually the biggest hit of the band's career, not Rock You, by the way. And once Rock You came out, then, forever after, they wanted us to write another Rock You, and that there was a lot of pressure on us to come up with that big hit single, and, we felt it as writers.
Yeah.
And I think back then, too, we weren't as good a writers. Like, I think I'm a better writer nowadays. I should be. I've been at it now almost 40 years now. But writing's a muscle just like anything else. It's something you develop over time. And back then, we used to sit around, and it was like we were waiting for lightning to strike us in the form of creativity and, spill forth into a song. And it, when you become a professional songwriter, you realize it doesn't really happen like that, that there's certain things you go through to make that creativity happen, because you're not going to feel creative every day, but you have to, as a songwriter. You have to know how to get those creative juices flowing. I'm sure you, Mitch, as a writer, don't feel like writing a column every day, but you got to sit down, and there's certain foundation you work from to come up with an article.
That's right.
Well, yeah, actually, a lot of it for me is inspiration. I'll be, at 2 a.m, an idea will pop out, and I'll just get out of my bed, turn on the computer, and go, okay. And then, half an hour later, I've got something written. And sometimes I'll sit down in the afternoon and say, it's time to write, and nothing will come out. It's the strangest thing, right? It's got to be. You've got to be inspired. Now, speaking of inspiration, the new Helix album, "Bastard of the Blues," when does that come out? And Sean, are you involved in this one?
Oh yeah, I'm heavily involved, and grateful to be, because I really think I'm learning so much from writing with Brian, because Brian's a more experienced writer, so I'm
No, I wouldn't say that, but anyway.
Well, hey, facts are facts, and I'll tell you now, we've got. It's funny. We talk about inspiration versus perspiration, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to work hard, but at the same time, you have to be inspired. I mean, I am inspired. I grew up listening to this guy, right? So there is some inspiration there, but there's something about how we crafted these songs and took our time, we didn't have that external pressure of a record company or someone saying you have to write a hit. We just took our time to craft songs because we loved the process of doing it. So this was a thrill, and to finally see it come to fruition, I was honored to be asked to play some guitar on the record too. So I actually get to add that part of my musical self to the project, some guitar playing, and yeah, I'm just thrilled with the record.
I may add here too, Mitch, that it's a real team effort when we come up with a Helix album nowadays. It starts with Sean and I, and then we, once we get the skeleton of the song together as far as we think we can take it, and we really work hard on lyrics. I find that a lot of older artists, especially lyrically, is where they fall down. It's not the music; it's more the lyrics. So we work very hard on having great lyrics. And then once we get it to the point where we don't think we can take it any further, then we present it to Fritz and Daryl, and then what we call Helix size the song. And Aaron Murray, my producer in the last 3 albums, he comes down and he records us right up the practice hall, and then with the magic of Pro Tools, he'll put together a better demo, and then we'll listen to that and live with that for a certain length of time, and then make any corrections from that, and then it's into the studio. And even when we get to the studio, the songs still continue to grow, and then we bring in Caleb and my new guitar player now, Chris, also played on the album, and so it's a quite different, and it's a somewhat of a lengthy process from song inception to when we get it to record.
What keeps you going though? I mean, you could certainly look back at the catalog and say, I've done it all. This is great. I've got a nice body of work. Now I'm going to retire. What makes you want to do more?
Well, I actually ask the opposite question. I go, why do people quit?
Yeah.
Like, if you're really in this to create music, what's changed? Because you got old? Because records don't sell anymore? Like, I always question people's motivation when they say it to me, I don't do records anymore, they don't sell. Well, in the back of my mind, I'm always going, well, what about creating music? Isn't that what you're in it for?
It brings me back to our conversation.
For me, the biggest thrill in life is still writing a song, recording a song, releasing a song. There's days I get up and I go, fuck it, what am I doing this for? This is crazy. I'm working all year long, 7 days a week, and at the end of the year, I'm no farther ahead than I am. And I got my wife telling me, "This is it, no more records." And somehow I always get a little farther ahead, and I end up doing another album. So, when it's in your blood, it's hard just to stop.
But it actually brings me back to a private conversation we had about maybe 10 years ago, where you told me, Mitch, I wanted a music career, not a music day, not a music week, a music career. And I guess that's what keeps you going, right? I mean, it's a career.
Yeah, as long as I'm making money, and I'm not losing my house or something. I get a certain amount of time each year to go on a bit of holidays. I'm pretty happy with it. Like, we were just sitting out back with some friends. Actually, it was Dee Landers, the mother of the Kitty Girls, the other night. Got a little fire in the back of the property, right? And they spend quite a few months now down in Florida. And I said, well, it'd be okay for me for a month. I don't think I could handle it for 3 or 4. And they went, well, there's lots to do. I go, well, yeah, maybe I know there's lots to do, but there's not lots of music to do. After a month, I'd want to get back, and I'd want to be doing it again. That's what I do. That's what turns my crank, floats my boat.
Yeah, and of course, new album means more touring, more shows. And Sean, let me just ask you. You've also got another project that I'm quite aware of, 4 by Fate, with the guys from Frehley's Comet, John Regan and Tod Howarth, and of course, Stet Howland of W.A.S.P. Want to just throw in a little plug about that band and what you're up to?
Well, yeah, and once again, Mitch, the rock guardian angel came into play and introduced me. Well, we had both John and Todd and myself. We all had the pleasure of playing on the tribute CD you put together for the hospice in Montreal.
Right, the palliative care center, yeah.
Yeah, in honor of your father-in-law. Yeah. And as I'm telling you this, you already know this, but you put us together with put me together with Tod and John, and Stet Howland came on board, and the band's called 4 by Fate, and it's funny. I couldn't think of a better name because it really just seemed like it was meant to be. Years and years ago, I actually met Stet Howland when Crash Kelly opened for W.A.S.P. And we hit it off right away. And then a few years after that, I met him again at NAMM, and we hit it off. And
And I do Stet too.
Yeah, like it's a small world, But it's a small world, but I am finding that the good people tend to find each other.
They really do.
Keep looking.
They really do.
Think about it, Mitch. We've been friends for how many years now?
Oh.
And
when was the first Crash Kelly CD officially released?
2003.
So it was 2003, and I think I got like a demo tape of it like 6 months or 9 months ahead of time. So we're looking 2002, so a good dozen years now.
That's right. And 4 by Fate's going great. We just set up shop. Our business partner and booking agent Danny Stanton had us down to Long Island, where we were rehearsing for a few days. We're gearing up for some big festival shows this summer with Scorpions, Twisted Sister, Marilyn Manson.
I know. Is that going to be crazy?
I know. It's nuts. We actually have some shows in June. We're playing Poughkeepsie at the Chance Theater.
I'll be there.
On June 6th. And June 5th, we're actually at Revolution in Long Island.
Right.
So really looking forward to that. And great guys. Actually going to be doing some writing. Brian and I are going to get together and pitch some songs for the new 4 by Fate record too.
Oh, see, that's actually kind of cool. Maybe even a guest vocal or something. But do you approach writing, both of you? Do you approach writing differently for Helix as you approach it for 4 by Fate, as you might approach it for Darby or for any other band that you might write for? Do you have like different hats, or you just write and whatever it is, what it is?
I imagine we'll just write. Sean or I will come up with a chorus, and we usually work from the chorus backwards. We get a topic that we want to work on. A lot of mine that I get, I find in the newspaper. Skin in the Game, Champagne Communist, Bastard of the Blues, Sean came up with. Even Jesus Wasn't Loved in His Hometown off the new album is obviously about... Somebody said that to me when I was complaining about the lack of airplay in London, Ontario, and the fact we can't get a gig down here if we paid for it, right? And somebody said, even Jesus wasn't loved in his hometown, and I marked that down. I thought that was a great title. So
I have a great title for you, Rock Guardian Angel. That would make a good song title.
It sounds like a B-side from a Runaways album or something.
Probably.
I like it.
Maybe it's a good album title. Well, let me work on that.
Sounds good.
So let's just wrap it up. Let's get back to Metal on Ice. We've got the book. We've got the CD. Now, the CD was a Pledge Music campaign thing. Can fans go get it at Amazon or at Best Buy or just?
Well, the best place to get it right now, I'll tell you, is actually Walmart. Walmart came on board as a partner. It's out through Coalition Music, Warner Records. Yeah. You can get it at Walmart, but any place where quality music is sold, it's available. It's up on iTunes and all the usual suspects. But a lot of fans have been telling us they've been picking it up at Walmart. So.
And Brian, you had sorry, just to cut you off a second, Brian, you had an exclusive deal with Walmart too there with the Helix Christmas album, right?
I did, yes, and it did very well for us.
What a great album that was. What a fun album.
Thank you very much. I think I'm actually thinking of repackaging it this summer and including the Leaf song on it.
Oh,
we had the Christmas single out to All I Want for Christmas is the Leafs to win the cup.
He wants one to play over and over again.
No, we need a Go Habs Go song.
Well, we'll do a French version and we'll use it for the Habs.
Well, that's right. Go les Habs go. Oh, great. So, and then of course there's the Facebook for Metal on Ice, which is Sean.
Metal Facebook.com/Metal on Ice. You were at Twitter at Metal on Ice. And May 10th, I just want to do a plug for the show at the Opera House in Toronto. Got Carl Dixon from Coney Hatch, Darby Mills from Headpins, Nick Walsh from Slick Toxic, now with Famous Underground, Brian Vollmer, of course, from Helix, and who are we missing? Oh, of course, Lee Aaron, the Metal Queen, will be there. So we got a great show lined up as part of Canadian Music Week at the Opera House, May 10th. And that's and it's going to be hosted by Christopher Ward. Got Drew Masters coming by to talk a little bit about his stint at Meat Magazine. and really looking forward to it. It's a culmination of a lot of hard work, but something that I will always cherish. I'm very proud of this project, very honored the artists took part. And the live show, we're calling it an Electric Storytellers Concert, because at the end of the day, this is all about the songs, and I think it's going to be a great opportunity for the fans to get a little bit of insight about where these great songs came from, and that's what we're going to be doing.
Just one show, or are you going to be trying to do a few more down the road?
Hey, you know what? I've learned one thing in this business: you never say never. And I would love nothing more than to see it if it all worked out. I would love nothing more than to see us take this out for a few shows. I think this is something. Well, I already know that people across the country are emailing me and wondering if it's coming to their neck of the woods. So who knows?
Well, as a music fan, my only hope is at least have some tape rolling, either video or digital. Just get it down so that there's a record of this, so that we can either download it or buy it or view it on YouTube. I don't care, but you can't just have this concert and not have it documented.
I hear you. I hear you. Hopefully, the powers that be will be will be doing that.
All right, who do I have to call?
I love it. Yeah, start strong arming some people.
Well, we should have this on tape, because you never know when these people are going to get together again. And really, we do represent a whole decade of heavy metal, heavy rock in Canada. So it is kind of like a milestone type of thing that
it really
should be represented on film.
Well, I do. I think we're going to definitely try and record it, and to me, I'd love to see this come out with some bonus material. I just love that stuff anyway. So
yeah, I love all that stuff. And of course, is it still planethelix.com or is that been changed?
It's planethelix.com. That's correct.
Good. So let's get folks checking out Helix. Let's check folks checking out Metal on Ice. And if you don't have
metaloниce.com, of course.
Yeah, metaloниce.com. And of course, you can read all the latest Canadian hard rock news on bravewords.com. See, we plugged everything. It's beautiful.
Yeah, man.
It's a beautiful day. Thank you, boys.
Thank you. Thanks for the support, Mitch.
Always.
Yeah.
For everything you've done for us.
I've always supported Helix, always supported Sean.
I know you have.
And we'll keep going, because we're all Canadians, and it's a small market, and if we put walls around each other, it's a very lonely market. So you sort of got to break down the walls and fight it together, right?
Well, I'll tell you, I do believe that something is happening here, and I think that, there's going to be less and less people who are qualified to authentically write, record, and play rock and roll music. Mm-hmm. The way the industry is going, it's turning into a singles-generated, industry. Yeah. It's very disposable. Yeah. There's not the infrastructure that used to exist for bands to go out, hone their craft in the bars, playing 3 to 4 sets a night, 7 nights a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's impossible.
And so I think it's important, because I know that kids want to do this. I'm a guitar teacher. I see kids hey, Stratocasters and Les Pauls have not disappeared. Nope. People still want to play electric guitar. I think that these.
Well, it's really opening up for us too. Sorry to butt in there,
no
Sean.
problem.
But what's really opened up for us now is Europe, because I think the scene is still, is a lot more vibrant over there. I hate to say it, but it's true.
No, it absolutely is true. As a writer who gets emails from fans, most of the people that write me are coming from Sweden, Germany, the UK. I rarely get emails from somebody in Saskatchewan. I rarely get emails from people in the States, but and Australia also seems to just, hey man, when is this band coming to Australia? Hey man, when is this band coming to Germany? They just seem to love hard rock of all stripes.
For sure.
Well, we got 3 dates in Spain next month, and then we're going to, we have 8 dates in Scandinavia in October.
Wow.
Through Sweden, Finland, Denmark, and Norway.
Yeah.
And 4 by Fate, it's funny, we've got Norway, we've got Austria, we've got, where else are we going?
I think there was Switzerland or Belgium, that's it, Belgium. Yeah, it's just the way it is. And by the way, when you're in Denmark, say hi to my cousins. That's where all the family lives. But, it's unbelievable. So we got to keep supporting Canadian rock and Canadian metal. And, listen, the 80s were a very ripe time. You look at all the bands that are mentioned in Sean's book, from Honeymoon Suite to Helix to Killer Dwarfs to Headpins to Toronto. They made a lot of great music. And just because they weren't from Los Angeles, a lot of them got ignored by MTV. And it's a bloody shame. It's a bloody shame.
Well, the beauty of the internet now is that stuff's all out there, and I definitely feel there's more international awareness about Canadian acts, and that makes me very happy.
Absolutely, me too.
Yep.
Thank you, boys. Let's go enjoy some hockey on
Thanks,
TV
Mitch.
tonight.
Sounds
We'll
good.
talk soon.
No, I don't watch hockey anymore.
Well, as a Habs fan, I've got at least another 2
The
weeks
Habs are
ahead of
doing
me.
good. I'll cheer for the Habs.
There you go. Go
Yeah,
Habs, go.
even though I'm a Leaf fan, I'd like to see the Habs win.
Hey, there's only one Canadian team, right? We got to rally around them.
Yep.
Thanks,
Till
everybody.
next year.
Till next year.
Then the hate's on again.
Of course.
That's right.
But let's just hate the Senators. That'll be better.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, take care, buddy. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.